Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink, it is time for some Path of Exile discussion. The second weekend of a new league is often a really good time to make a lot of currency, and one of the best ways to do this is to craft to the current meta. Crafting doesn't necessarily mean that you start with a completely unfinished item and then end with something that's a finished product. Sometimes you can take one step along that way and mass produce a particular item. That's been my particular strategy. Now, fair warning, by the time I publish this video, the exact niche that I use here will probably be filled by all the other people watching this video. However, there'll be plenty of other opportunities, if you're cunning, to have a look at why this works and then try and adapt that into a slightly different strategy that's not about making Hunter, Elder, and Shaper influenced Stygian Vises, but that is about making something else instead. Something else that there is huge demand for in the League economy. The reagents we're going to be using are Conqueror Exalted Orbs. Hunter Exalted Orbs are too expensive to use with this strategy. We'll be using Warlord, Crusader, and Redeemer Exalted Orbs. We don't care which one of them we buy, just buy whichever one's cheapest. I traded for the 8 Warlords Exalted Orbs you see here for a total of 396 Chaos, and that's a pretty typical price today. Yesterday they were close to 53 or 54 Chaos a unit. The other reagent we're going to be using is Blue Goo for Harvest. Now this stuff costs about 1 Divine Orb per 9,000, but this price can oscillate wildly. I used more than 250,000 of this yesterday, and as a result, I personally pushed the price up from about 10,300 a Divine to about 9,400 a Divine, and it's going to oscillate a bit, but at the time I was recording this video, it was 9,300 a Divine again. So all you're going to do is just make sure that these are item level 86, and then we're going to be applying a Conqueror Exalted Orb to them. These don't have any good mods on them at the moment, except for this one, which does by chance, but these ones here don't have good mods on them. All we're doing is we are crafting bases that other people will craft further. With a Conqueror Exalt, it does two things. Firstly, it adds a mod like an Exalted Orb does, except that new mod is always going to be of the influence type of the Conqueror Exalt. Additionally, it will permanently grant the item that type of influence. So for instance, Havoc Snare here, this now has the Warlord exclusive mod 11% increased damage on it, which is not a high tier mod and not particularly valuable, but we don't really care because all we're trying to do with it is set it up for the next step of the craft, which is over at the Hoarder Crafting Station. One of the most important lessons you can learn is that every time the Path of Exile subreddit says something is bad, there is usually a really good profit opportunity there. And that's exactly what's going on here. What we're going to be doing is using randomize the influence types on an influenced normal magic or rare item, as well as reforging the item with new random modifiers. So we're just going to put these in and we're going to see what we get. Okay, that's a Redeemer item. That is something we're just going to roll over. Every time that we get Warlord, Redeemer, or Crusader, we're going to roll over it. Every time we get Hunter, Shaper, or Elder, we're going to stop. Okay, that's another Warlord, unfortunately. That's another Redeemer. This will happen sometimes. You'll get a bad lucky streak. Generally, though, every 5 attempts will give you 3 successes. So that's an Elder influenced Stygian Vise. We're not going to craft this further. Instead, what we're going to do is sell it on to someone else who wants to do further crafting on it. That's a Shaper one. The people who want the Shaper ones, I've had a few people ask me this question. These people, broadly speaking, are players of Impending Doom and also Ward Loop builds. These really want cooldown reduction on their belts, and that's why they'll be looking to use a Shaper influenced Stygian Vise. They can also use a Crusader influenced one. There's another Shaper influence. The Shaper influence ones are the slow sellers, but that's okay. So there's another Shaper, and we've used 10,000 Blue Goo so far, so we've been a bit unlucky. Another Shaper. What you're wanting though is mostly the Hunter ones. The Hunter ones are the ones that are the most lucrative. It is the same chance to get all of them, but you will find that you will get very unlucky streaks sometimes, like we've had here. There's an Elder influence. We still haven't had a single, and we've consumed 8 Warlords Exalted Orbs. Now what we've got in exchange for that, we've got 1 Hunter influenced Stygian Vise. This will sell for 1.1 Divines, so 200. We've got 2 of the Elder influence ones. These will sell for about 0.7 each. So that's 1.4 Divines, so we're now up to 450. And these will sell for 90 each. So that's another 450. We're now at 900 Chaos there. That's the sort of profit margins you're looking at if you get a little bit less lucky than usual. You see that I got more Shaper and less Hunter. Every time that you click the button to randomize the influence, you have a 20% chance to get each of the 5 influences that it is not currently. So that is a 20% to get a Shaper, which is sort of an okay hit, 20% to get an Elder, which is quite a good hit, and 20% to get a Hunter, which is a fantastic hit, as well as 40% to get one of the same things back again. Now, the important thing to note is that as soon as I post this video, this specific niche is going to be filled. There's going to be no more profit opportunities here. What is it about this craft that makes it tick? The key thing is that this is an RNG craft where there are multiple possible winning outcomes. For someone who wants a Hunter Influence belt, they have two options if they want to make it themselves. The first one is that they can take a Hunter's Exalted Orb and apply it to a Stygian Vise. That is not an efficient use of resources at the moment. Or they can apply a different Elder Slayer Exalt and then an average of 5,000 blue goo in order to get it into a Hunter, because each attempt will cost 1,000 blue goo and each one will have a 20% chance to hit. So that's the cost for someone who is only interested in a Hunter one. But for someone who's only interested in a Shaper one, the cost to make it is the same. For someone who's only interested in an Elder one, the cost to make it is the same. The thing that we can do here is focus on the fact that we can use any of these three outcomes. Any of these three outcomes are okay. And as a result, we can just say, all right, we're trying to make the Hunter ones, but along the way, we're going to stuff up and fail a few times, and we're going to make these Shaper ones instead. They're not what we want, but we can sell them because they're something people want, and we'll start over with a new base. We'll do the same with the Elder ones, and the Elder ones will sell a bit better. And this is the reason that this craft works. There are multiple winning states, and that is the key lesson that you can take away. What you want to do now is find your own niche, because if I find a niche for you, it's going to end up completely filled and dominated by competition as soon as anyone's aware of it. And one thing I would suggest you consider if you're looking to create such an opportunity for yourself, have a look at Awakener's Orbs. They're extremely cheap this league, partly because they're a little bit off meta, but whilst they might not be used to create forever gear for a lot of characters, this is the second weekend of the league. There are plenty of people for whom a fairly basic Awakener Orb craft can be a huge upgrade for them. And those people are far enough in progression that they're going to be able to buy your items if it's perfect for their build for 2, 3, 4, or even 10 divines if it's really well rolled. Anyways, that's all I got on this. May your Val Orbs, your Harvest Crafts, and your Awakener's Orbs have interesting results.